I don't know if you've seen this, but I watched a documentary on David Foster. Have you heard about this?
I heard about it.
He said that when he recorded, you record "And I'm Telling You," that you walked in and I believe you had a dog with you. He said, and he said that when you sang the song, he said, "Let's do it again," and he said that you said, "I only sing it once," and you walked out. Is that true?
Well, that is true, but it wasn't as like I only sing it once. It was just that when you record a Broadway cast album, and this they still do, primarily you do it on your day off. So you're doing 8 shows a week. So you record it on a Monday, and that's what they do. They bring people in on the vocals. They probably maybe do a little bit different now, but pretty much it's the same way. You're doing 8 shows a week. Your voice is only kind of scheduled for that. You're tired and stuff. So, I did it in the one take, and he was like, "Hey, we weren't ready." And I was like, "Oh, I'm done." I was like, I'm so done, and he was like, "Well, I said, well, what do you think would need to be different?" He said, "No, I just didn't get it. It was kind of like we didn't have our levels set." And I said, "Oh, I'm done." I was like, call me later if it's not, if it's not, what do you think later? But, and, and
So
he
it was a
did
matter of you
call
saving
later.
your voice.
Yeah, it was a matter of us. Yeah,
Mm.
because like I said, and I don't know what the process is now, but 40 years ago, 41 years ago, you did the cast album on your day off.
Mm.
And basically you just did it as the show. It was no overdubbing. It was no need to do it. You just kind of did it. And but because he was trying to make it different, like a more of like a studio album, not like a cast album. And I I couldn't understand what he needed. I was like, "I don't understand what you need." And he was like, "I didn't have my levels right. My engineer didn't have the levels right. Don't you understand what I'm trying to say? It's distorted. It's not gonna be clear. It's blah blah." I was like, "Well, call me later, right?" Yes, because I've already done it, so I can't do it again. So give me another. So he did call. I did a second take sometime later or whatever, and they have that one too, but they still just went with the first one because I was like, I don't know.
Ah, wait, and didn't you told me in a previous interview that in this recording, and I'm telling you, they wanted you to take out the big note and you had to fight
Right.
to keep the big note in. Explain that to me.
Well, that part, just when we were in the workshop doing Dream Girls, and I'm telling you, it was pretty much written, but not all of it written, in terms of just the elements that we added. The show was originally Neil Carter was Effie, and so when I came along and then I'm singing my thing, I'm coming straight kind of like from church, because I was doing Your Arm Too Short to Box with God on Broadway. That was my debut. So I'm used to singing in the church. So that's where the whole gospely thing of the tear down the mountains, yes, because that's all the way I knew. It's kind of like when they go, take it to another level, then I go to church. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that's all I know. I think that I know how to build a song better now these days later, but that's all I know. So I kind of took that part to church. But the middle part, me holding the note, that was not written. And the only way that I got that part in, because I had been learning by watching Barbara Streisand videos. And I had never heard of Barbara Streisand when they gave me that. Michael Bennett, he says, "Well, I want you to look at these musicals of Barbara Streisand so you can learn about how to tell a song, how to tell a story through song. And you're going to have to be able to coordinate that. Some things your eyes will say in the song, some things, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, fine. I don't know who Barbara Streisand is, but fine." So I looked at it, and of course, yes, she did have this amazing, beautiful voice, you know, um, and at that particular point, I'm a teenager, so it's kind of like, Barbara Streisand is everything. I mean, it's like, okay, well, you know, I don't know who Barbara Streisand is. I only know Aretha Franklin. So do she know Aretha? You know what I'm saying? So, but in styles, I did understand, that she did have this incredible instrument, this beautiful voice. But what impressed me the most was how she was able to hold a note so long. And I was like, how is she doing that? So I practiced with her holding a note. And so I wanted to show what I had learned. And that's how come that got incorporated into, and I'm telling you, I'm not going, and the going sliding up. I'd already been sliding up on a note in church. So I'd already kind of developed that one on my own, but actually holding a note, concentrating on it, that I basically got from her. So I wanted to show it. So when they got ready to, when David Foster and David Geffen, and they were going to try to release a single, they said, well, we can't release a single because radio's not going to play a song that stops. I mean, the song just stops. So couldn't you just like, you know, fix that part, like, so we could keep it moving? And I was like, well, I think I like it like it is. And, you know, and Michael Bennett, we both didn't understand about recording. We were like, it should be like the show, you know? And they were like, well, we're going to go get somebody like Gladys Knight to do it. Oh, well, we'll go get her. You don't say go get her, because I think we should do it like the show. I don't know about recording records or making hit singles or anything, but this is how it is in the show. And Michael Bennett agreed. So, well, let's just do it like we do it in the show, and let's not change it up. And they were like, well, no one's gonna play it. And thank God for a man named Frankie Crocker, who said, I love this song, and you gotta go to Broadway and hear this girl. And he played it every morning at drive time. And that's how the rest, everyone else followed suit, because Frankie Crocker saw it.
I cannot imagine. Thank God you fought for that, Miss Holliday. I cannot imagine that song without the iconic big note. I just can't imagine. Thank God you fought for that. That would have changed the song completely.
Well, it would have just gone back to the way the song originally was. So you would have had to been there. So I didn't have a problem with that. It's just that it wasn't me. And people had already seen the show. And it wasn't like back then, everything was word of mouth. So it wasn't any videotapes or anything that people could send around, or, you know, no social media or anything like that. So everything was, you got to go to see the show, because there was nothing, we didn't have phones. We didn't have cell phones back then to bootleg or whatever, even though some people have bootleg copies, but it wasn't the same, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to make sure that if they didn't get to Broadway, that they experienced that. And so did Michael Bennett. We both were like, okay, we still should be like Broadway. It shouldn't be like an R&B, just an R&B song. You know, you could do another one. And they said, well, let's do both. I said, why don't you do both versions? Let Gladys Knight do one and do mine. I said, but I'm not even recording. I said, at this point, I'm only 21 years old. So I was like, I don't know, whatever.
Now, considering they said that, oh, it's not going to work with having this in it, were you surprised that it was a hit? Were you surprised?
I was surprised because, like I said, I didn't know anything about music. I had not recorded anything. I had only thought about Aretha, because that's my only reference that I had ever known. And yes, listen to other records and stuff, but Aretha was my idol. And eventually maybe to record like her, but that was not my goal or dream either. At that point, I didn't know what my goals or dream. I had been kidnapped to Broadway. That was all I thought. I was like, okay, they making me sing. Now they're making me do another show. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be going to college, which I never did go, so it's kind of like, what is going on, So I think that I was surprised that it became a hit, because they told me that it wouldn't be a hit. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is how the music, and then more surprised when I won my Grammy, because I'm in the category with my idol, Aretha Franklin, with Diana Ross, with Donna Summer. I don't know if Denise Williams was in that category. It was all of that, So I had gotten 2 nominations, got nominated for Best Artist, and I think Men at Work won that one, and then had gotten nominated, So I was like, okay, surely I can't win a Grammy, you know, in the same category with my idol and Diana Ross and all these people in this category. And they called my name. I was like, okay, I don't know anything about show business or anything. It's like kind of like Laurel says in Dreamgirls, boy, this business show got a lot of ups and
downs. Oh my God.
This business show got a lot of ups because I sure didn't know what was going on.
Shout out. That is hilarious. Listen, I gotta talk to you about this. And in every interview I've had with you, I've always brought this up, but I think it's so important because you had a LGBT following before it was popular. And nowadays, a lot of artists see the importance of an LGBT following, especially a following of gay men. And one of the things you said on my interview with you a couple of years ago, and it was so powerful that you said to me, as somebody who's from the church, you know, you grew up in the church, born and raised in the church, you push back on this idea that gay people are an abomination. You push back on hate, you know, love the sinner, hate the sin. And you said, I know that because God loves you, God also loves this community who supported you when at times no one else supported you. And I thought that was so powerful, Miss Holliday, because so many, especially Black gay folks, Black queer folks, go through so much what I call spiritual and theological violence. And I'm not going to name any names, but how hurtful is it to support an artist who says, I'll take your money, but I think you're going to burn in hell. I'll bring you to a club to perform, but I think there's something wrong with you, but I'm going to take your money. And you have been a stone cold ally. And I want to thank you for that. Again, before it was popular. Sylvester's birthday just passed a few days ago. I just want to know if you could just speak to that. Your support of the community and support of explaining how love shows up in various ways.
Absolutely. Listen, there would be no Jennifer Holliday without the LGBTQ plus IA community, because the love, and I don't know what it's about, but that community has unconditional love. So many of us, without a hit record, I can only speak for myself, but there are, others as well, that they supported without a hit record. And that's important because they kept me from having to be destitute my own self or homeless or without, because when I couldn't get a regular concert job, I could play those wet rooms at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and they pay you ridiculous money, to come through there. And other places where we play in New York, like the Paradise Garage, showtime 5 a.m., 6 a.m., all of us so welcomed and loved and paid well. And how could I say, like you said, okay, I'll take your money, but what you're doing is really, a sin and an abomination, whatever. When me being a church girl, in the sense where not so, I am a person of faith, but I also know, and I don't know all of the scriptures, or anything, but I do know that because God loved me so much, when I used to be so depressed and wanted to die my own self, God loved me and rescued me, but he sent gay people to rescue me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and even though I guess, in the church will never say it, or, but the choir or different people, so many people in the choir or different things, people who helped me along the way. He would not have done that and said, okay, Jennifer, they helped you. Now I am going to make sure you never come in contact with them again, or you whatever. I don't know all that much about God, but I would have to imagine he, she, whatever the whole thing about God is, would not be a hypocrite, just would not be doing it, you know. And I know that, you know, I should have better, like maybe scriptures to support or any. I don't have any of that, but I do know what my heart knows, and my heart is bonded forever and forever indebted to this community, because even though I'm being rediscovered now and it's very nice, but there were many, many years where no one asked for me or sought after me or applauded me or anything. It was this community that say, get Jennifer Holliday, you know, what is she, where is she, you know, well, how much she wants to come, you know. They didn't go, well, since you don't have a record and since nobody else wants to hire you, we're gonna only pay you a third of what you make, because that's what we think about you. No, always respectful, always loving, always making sure, you know, to give me money. And I always feel bad when I sing at a gay club and then they do the thing about giving you tips and stuff like that. I was like, honey, they have paid me enough money to be here to sing for y'all. Don't tip me. Don't do it, you know. But they were like, Jennifer, don't you know, don't say no to them. This is how they do. I was like, okay, but they have paid me enough to come here, and I don't want to be gathering those dollars and whatever like that. But I understood what it meant after people, you know, kind of educated me about it. But no, I still feel that way. And I bonded with this community, unfortunately, through a tragedy because of HIV/AIDS. So much of the Broadway community, theater community passed from that dreadful disease, including the creative people of Dreamgirls, Michael Bennett, Michael Peters, Tom Ian, Teddy Azar, the list goes on. So many of the male cast members as well. So the affinity and the connection is as deep, you know. And I don't know if it was just me and Shirley Ralph who just, I don't know, we just never let that bond go, you know. And she doesn't perform, you know, but she has always made sure that she has raised money and stood up for the cause too. So both of us, from that day where we would have to call people and tell them that their son had died, and no one wanted to come and get them, because a lot of back then, it was considered as the gay white man's disease. And a lot of people were in the closet back then, couldn't even tell their families because of church, you know, problems or religion. So a lot of people just said, you know what, my son's a sin, you know. And back then, because they didn't know what it was, they burned people's bodies, not cremated. Cremated is a more sacred process. They burned people's bodies because they didn't want to collect them. So we were going, are they kidding? You don't love your, you know, are you kidding? You know, they didn't even know they were gay, or some of them back then, you know, having to live double lives and just not being able to understand, especially like you said, with the Black community. Because I don't know if you remember this, in California, they had this, I don't know if it was called Proposition 8 or whatever like that. And they were like, well, it didn't pass because Black people didn't vote for it. I say, okay, first of all, you have to understand that even, I don't care how many years have passed, Black people still have a hard time coming out, especially if they're church, especially if they're down south. I said, it's still a difficult time. I said, and if you had done your research, you would have been able to try to figure out how to get it passed or how to help them to vote for this thing. You know, I said, but it's not that simple. And it's, even though it's somewhat easier for women now, you know, Black women, but it's still not. I think some Black women will probably never still be able to come out, you know, but even though that's getting better too, but it's still very difficult process for Blacks to come out because some things are just kind of, I don't know, unfortunately passed from generation to generation, you know.
Let me ask you, Tevin Campbell recently opened up and quote unquote came out officially. And I'm wondering, Do you think if Luther was still with us, Mr. Luther Vandross, do you think at this point he would eventually said at some point he would have said, you know what, I'm gonna say what it is, I'm gonna be who I am, and he would have totally been embraced. Oh my God, folks would have just, But do you think he would have eventually came out, or do you think he would have been of that generation that just would have never felt comfortable?
I think he would have been of the generation that just would have never felt comfortable. And he died of a lonely man, of a broken heart. And mainly because here is a man who sings great love songs, write them, perform them, and not able to outwardly express his love and, express his disappointment, his pain. And he had, one lover who got killed in a car accident. And it just, he was never really right after that because he wasn't able to mourn openly and grieve. And so he just really died of a broken heart, lonely. And I don't think, even with the way things have changed today, that he would have felt comfortable or accepted, or he would have even believed anyone who said, "Oh, I got you, I'll support you." He would have been like, "Yeah, right," So I think he would have been just of that kind of generation, where he would have felt he would have been not punished, but further unloved, because he felt unloved.
There have been so many covers of "And I Am Telling You." What's one that made you say, "Okay, that was good. That was it. I'm feeling that." What's one cover of "And I'm Telling You" from an artist that made you say, "Okay, this was damn good"?
Well, I mean, the definitive one would have to be J Hud, because she, was after me, in the sense where, even though the movie was 15 years later, and people sang it in terms of recording, that's pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? I don't recall it. I think Shirley Murdoch recorded it.
Did she really?
I think she did.
As We Lay? Okay.
Yeah, I think she did. And I don't know anyone else who actually recorded it, and it wasn't until later that men started singing. But I don't know if I told you this, but Sammy Davis Jr. sang it in Vegas in his show.
Really?
Yes, he did. And I am telling you, I'm not going. I was
oh my goodness.
One night, and he was like, his musical director was George Rhodes, and he says, Sammy's got a surprise for you, and so he wants to make sure you're coming to. I was like, yeah, I'm coming, or whatever. Anyway, and I didn't even really know what to do, because here you got this legend, Sammy Davis Jr., and it was really important for him to sing it and for me to hear it. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm speechless, because you're a freaking legend, and I don't know what else to say.
First of all, that Sammy Davis Jr. impression was spot on. I got to say, one version that I thought was really good, and you were on stage with her, was the young girl from American Idol, Jessica Sanchez.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, she is doing good, and y'all, I thought she was really, really well. I was like, wow, this is really powerful.
Yeah, and I was so happy to work with her. They had called me because she had kept landing in the bottom 3, and they said, well, maybe if you she really idolizes you, and maybe you could come and work with her. And I was like, she's 15 years old, so how does she know about me? Well, come to know, her father played my version all the time. And I said, you sure it's me that she's asking for? They said, she's asking for you. She knows you because her father taught her about you. And I was like, okay. So I get there and I see exactly, what she needs to do. And I also just see how how much she really did admire me. You can feel it, you know, just in how she wanted to make sure she was singing correctly, or that I was pleased, or, you know, each step of the way. And it was so touching, especially, you know, her being, it was my first introduction to the Filipino audience. So I got all of these, you know, Filipino followers and fans, you know, because she's both Mexican and Filipino. And then I did tell her, you know, I said, I'm just going to tell you, because I think you're old enough to know you're probably not going to win this, but not because you can't sing. I said two things. I said, we're in a kind of male thing right now. So the fact that the guys and the girls can write in and the fan kind of stuff, that's one. I said, and two, I said, you're Mexican and Filipino. I said, and I hate to say that. I said, but we still just haven't gotten there yet. I said, and I think you won't do it. And I hate to say this because you're so young, because I don't want you to go around thinking that the whole world is racist and that we're all just, you know, we can't have a chance to move forward. But you keep landing up in the bottom. I said, for two things. Number one, you pick songs that are older than you, because you have this old spirit and this old voice. I said, and number two, America's just not ready. You know, I said, you're Mexican and Filipino. I said, so, but I want you to know that you have an amazing voice, an amazing instrument, and amazing instincts about how to sing, but that's not why you might lose, you know. And she did lose. So
it's so unfortunate. I don't even know. I can't think of the last time a big power vocal ballad has been a big hit song. I can't, I mean, maybe it's out there, I don't know. And I love all the singers today, they're all great. But I wonder, you know, what a song like.
I think the only one is Adele. You know, I think that
Adele has some ballad.
Yeah, and because Adele would tell you, like she did on her special, say, okay, I'm going to do one up tempo, one,
right.
You know?
Right.
I'm a ballad. I like ballads, but I'm going to do one because they told me I need to do one in this special. You know what I'm saying? But Adele is pretty much the only one that they allow to do it. More of the white males are. We haven't had a room for any of our Black males to really break through in terms of what they can really do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if a Teddy Pendergrass, a song like, I don't know, The Whole Town's Laughing at Me, I don't even know if it'd be a hit today, which is so unfortunate.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The only way that could be a hit is if it's coupled with someone white or coupled with someone doing rap over it in the middle, in the middle section. You'll be like, yeah, the whole town talking, and you gotta get away, and I don't know what they're laughing at me. Ha. Come on, kid, sing it. Ha, ha, ha.
My gosh.
You know it's true.
Oh, I know it's true.